USA! 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 I would get a lot louder, but it's kind of late, so I don't want to wake up the rest of my house. So that's about as loud and as excited as I'm going to get right now. But yes, we are champions of the Gold Cup. Overall, in my opinion, a good result. I mean, even though this is kind of looked at as like, whatever, it's just the Gold Cup, it's still kind of a big win for us because this is the first thing we've won in 4 years. We haven't really done much of anything. We did okay at the Copa America, we did okay at the last World Cup, we did okay. Now we've won something. And overall, it's been a pretty good tournament. We've got to see some decent performances every now and then. I won't say it was pretty at all. It was very ugly tonight, very scary at times even. So, yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet win because there are some negatives to take with the positive. But this is mainly looking forward and saying, okay, so who's going to be helping us at the World Cup next year? And even who's going to be helping us in the qualifiers up till then as well. So, first of all, I want to talk about the goals because there were a couple goals that were pretty good, and then there was one that was just kind of like, yeah, that's pretty poor. The first one was the keeper really should have done better. I mean, just watching it real time, it looked like he had just nicked the underside of the post and dropped it in. Watching it in slow motion, I see that the keeper actually pushed it up onto the underside of the crossbar. And in reality, I mean, if their first keeper had been in, probably would not have been a goal. This keeper just didn't do good enough on that one. Really should have gotten a palm to it or went across with the other hand and touched it wide instead of pushing it up. But really should have done better with it. Not saying that it was a bad hit by any means. I mean, I much prefer a free kick on target than I do a free kick blasted over the goal. So it was still a good hit, but the keeper really should have done better to make the save, in my opinion. Their second goal was pretty nice. Still not great, though, because Morris really should have done more to make sure he didn't lose track of him. And even later on another corner, he's sitting there grabbing the guy's arm in the middle of the box, no less, because he just kept losing track of him. If you're not going to be good defensively, you shouldn't be in the box. You should not be marking somebody in the box, especially back post if you're not going to go with him. You're just letting him run past you is ridiculous. So it was poor defending on Morris's part, but it was still a good cross, good finish. So it was still a good goal. And then Morris's goal, kind of redeeming himself for letting in the second goal, did take a bit of a deflection, but a lot of good pressure from the wings. I think Zardis was in on it, and I think Villafania got involved too. I can't really remember all the build up to it now because it was kind of just falling everywhere in the box. At one point, comes out to Dempsey, who kind of like squishes it in between his legs, pops out right towards Morris, who gets his hips around it, turns it, fires it kind of towards the post, but the deflection off the defender's chest really helps it take it away out of the keeper's hands. So, it did take a little bit of luck, but it was still a nice strike, so fully deserved in my opinion. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Jamaica really were looking to just sit in and try to steal a late goal, kind of like what they did against Mexico. Not really looking to push forward. How much possession do we have in our half with our defenders just sort of passing it back and forth because everybody on Jamaica's team was just sitting on their side of the field? So that does make it a little bit boring, and it does kind of make it a little bit one-sided towards us because they're playing very counterattacking based, and we're actually looking to try to go on and push and win. Thankfully, we didn't get hit on the counter very dangerously most of the night. But overall, I'd say we deserved it. On to individual performances. Howard didn't have much to do. There was one save he made later on to keep it 1-1 that kept us in the game, so he's still called upon to make some big saves, and he can still do it, so that's always good to see. Villafania on the left side, okay defensively, and pretty poor on the ball tonight. Still just showing he's not what we need at left back. We need somebody with more quality than Villafania. I think he's a bit too slow. I think he's a bit too slow-footed as well. I just don't see enough out of him to think, yes, that's our starting left back. Bessler, Not his best game of the tournament. I think last game he had a much better game than he did tonight. His passing tonight was pretty poor, mostly going to the other team, and defensively he got caught just in the wrong space at the wrong time. He should be marking this guy on his left, but instead he's sort of ball watching, and now he's in space, not really marking anybody. So, he still did okay stopping the counterattack. There were a lot of times where the ball was going down his side, and he did well to slow him down to keep him from really breaking out on us. So he did have his moments, but I think overall it was a pretty average game from him. Gonzalez, still the same Gonzalez that I've been really disgusted with most of this tournament. Just the lack of effort at times. Obviously, the ball wasn't in our box that often, so we didn't have to worry about that. But as far as when the ball is in their box, and we got a lot of free kicks, a lot of corners where we're just dropping it into the box, if it's not toward him, he's not going to get on the end of it. And it's just really frustrating to watch, especially because Jamaica are known to counterattack. You want your defenders, okay, we don't have the ball anymore, take off. Even if the ball's sort of bouncing up in the air, you want them to start thinking about, okay, I got to start stepping back just in case they win it and they're trying to break through. I want to already be in motion heading back towards our goal so I can help out defensively. But anytime the ball is in the air in the box, after the first cross comes in, so cross comes in, headed away or up or whatever, I always see Gonzalez just standing. And he's not the only one. I think Morris and Altidore do it too. But Gonzalez is a defender. So you do not want him just standing in the opposition box when there's a possibility that they're going to be breaking away any second now. But he's always standing. Every single time the ball goes up in the air after the first cross in, that's all it is. He makes one good run. There was one corner where he made a great run to the front post, nearly flicked it in towards the near post. He makes great runs sometimes, but if the ball's not to him, he's not doing anything else for the rest of that corner until it's kicked out of the box. So I'm really frustrated with him because he is supposed to be one of our veteran defenders. He's somebody who's been in and around the first team for a long time now. And to see the lack of effort from a player like that, especially somebody who's supposedly playing professional, I don't think he deserves it. I don't think he's earned it after watching his lack of effort this tournament. And then Zusi is pretty much the opposite of Gonzalez as far as why I think he shouldn't be in the team. He just doesn't have that great of a touch. And the thing is, as a professional, you may make a couple mistakes. There may be a couple touches where it's like, oh, that was really bad. Bad first touch, you lost it. I can think of at least 10 instances throughout all of his showings this entire tournament where he gave away the ball because of a bad touch. Whether it was deflecting off of him out of bounds, whether he got megged off of a ball up in the air because he just didn't read it right. At his age, as a professional, you can't be doing that. You cannot be misjudging balls. You cannot be having bad touches at least 2 or 3 times a game. It just doesn't work like that, especially when you're playing internationally. You should be the best of your trade. You should be really trying to show why you deserve to be out there. He just has way too many mistakes for me, and plays too much like a winger on top of that. It's one thing if you're a wingback to get up and down in the attack, but to get up as much as he does, especially late on when we know they're going to be really looking to just drop everybody in and send everybody up so quickly. There's one moment where Zardis is on the ball, and it's a bad pass from Zardis, but Zusi's just made a sprinting run behind the defense. Zardis gives away the ball. Guess where our right back is? Still behind the defense. So, I don't know, he still thinks too much like a winger to play a right back. I just really have not been impressed with him at all this tournament, aside from the one cross in the Nicaragua game to set up Miazga's header for the goal. That's about the only thing that I've just been like, yeah, that was really good. The rest of it, even the good stuff that he does, leads to something bad. He'll take on one guy, beat him, but then have a terrible pass, or just dribble into pressure, or dribble into space, and then just lay it off, so creating absolutely nothing. In the midfield, Bradley and Acosta again. Bradley, more ineffective this game than he was against Costa Rica. I thought against Costa Rica he actually looked pretty good, good defensive work, pretty good passes in there as well. Tonight, just really not involved. And I don't know if that's just because Jamaica's midfield is so much bigger, and so they're easier or they're not as easy to get the ball off of. I don't know if it's because they were dropping so deep that he wasn't able to pass as much. I don't know what it was, but tonight just not as involved. His passes rarely come off. He was trying the long diagonal again tonight, which I don't think he did as much of against Costa Rica. Maybe that's why I noticed more tonight. I noticed more against Costa Rica that he was involved because he wasn't trying that long diagonal, like Cesc Fabregas does, but Fabregas always hits his mark, and Bradley hits it 1 out of 20 times. So yeah, just tonight it felt like he was giving the ball away a bit more, and it didn't feel like he was as involved in the build-up play and all that. Acosta, though, looked pretty good. Strong in the midfield. He was quick, very good at stepping in and nicking the ball off at times. And passing-wise, he looked to keep the ball moving. And I think that's something that a lot of the U.S. players tonight didn't really look to do. They didn't look to keep it moving back and forth, back and forth. It felt like a lot of them would pick up the ball and either look to try to beat the guy one-on-one or take a few touches, look up, and then lay it off to somebody. Acosta did that too, but far less than everybody else on the field. Nagbe, one of the ones that looked to dribble a lot and still looks to dribble every single time he picks up the ball. I hardly see him ever just get the ball laid off to somebody. It's almost always he gets it and he wants to dribble. He wants to take somebody on. Even if there's nobody to take on, he'll dribble until there's somebody to take on. So he just needs to release the ball a lot sooner. But his hard work is still much appreciated on the ball because we don't have anybody out there who's really willing to take on somebody. Trying to beat them with speed. Most everybody wants to either just drop it back or send it across first time. Areola, similar but less effective. One of the things I noticed is he's very good at trying to win the ball back. He's very persistent. Even though he's smaller, he tries to nip in and sort of poke it away. He's very good at fighting for the ball. But on the ball, he's terrible. I mean, just really, really bad. His crosses aren't anything to be proud of. They were better tonight than they were against Costa Rica, I think. But still just not really to anybody. He's just sort of putting it in a dangerous area. But if it's not the run that Morris and Altidore are making, they're not going to get to it because they're making specific runs that they want the ball played to them. Areola is just like, I'm just going to put it in dangerously. That doesn't work with these strikers, and he should know that if he's been training with them a lot. And then on top of that, just too many times he's trying to do too much. And against the Jamaica side that's so much bigger, he just gets knocked around. He gets shoved off very easily. You would hope that he could at least draw a foul or two, but most of the time he doesn't. And most of the time the ref just says, up, play on. So he's just not very good at drawing the foul either. And if all you're out there to do is just work hard to win the ball back as an attacking player, you want to see more out of him. You want to see him do something on the ball. You want to see him work well with the ball. And I just didn't see that tonight. Altidore and Morris up top, both of them get a goal, and yet both of them still frustrate me to no end. I know a lot of people are probably going to praise them so much. Altidore praised him for the goal against Costa Rica and tonight. Morris praised him for getting the goal that won the tournament. I'm sorry, I just do not see enough quality out of those two. I see far too much standing. I see far too much giving up on the play, even though the ball is still in our possession. There's one moment perfectly sums up both of their play, except Altidore is much more, I guess, animated about it. But Zardes was making a run in and then tries to cross it, and it deflects off the first defender and bounces and goes over his head. He turns to go and win it. Altidore, who's making a run in, sees the deflection, throws his hands up in the air and turns the head down, frustrated, as Zardes has won the ball back and sends in a low cross right toward him, but he's still just... And the thing is, Morris does similar things, except he's not as animated about it. He doesn't throw up his hands. He just makes one run and then he's done. If it's not to him, if it's not in his general direction, he's done. He's not going to change his run. He's just going to keep going. So you've got two strikers up there who are one-and-done runners. Where's your help going to come from? That's one thing. Dempsey came on in both games, and both games changed the tide a little bit. Second half, especially after they got the goal, we looked so much less effective. We nicked one at the end of the second half, but then they stepped up their game. They started pressing harder. Our players started getting run a bit ragged. They get one back, and now they're back to just sitting in. and we just have nothing for it. We got lucky with a free kick at the end of the first half to get a goal. But we have no creativity up there because both of them, Altidore and Morris, they just don't have enough in their game. And they don't do enough off the ball to really help out the other team. I mean, why was it back with our defense most of the time? Why was it stuck with midfielders who are more likely to dribble than pass it? It's because we have no movement up top. Altidore drops all the way into the midfield to get the ball and then stays there. He'll drop in, stay there, and now we've only got Morris up top. And I don't know. It gets really frustrating for me to see players out there who want to try to work their way into the first team. They want to prove themselves as starting strikers. They want to get in and score goals and do all this. You've got to work to score goals, and making one run and then stopping after that one run is not enough. So, yes, they scored both goals. I'm happy for them. I'm happy we won because of those goals. But in my opinion, they're not going to help us in other games where the other team is just dominating us. They're not going to pull out something special to get that goal. Neither of their goals really were that special. Morris's was a great hit, but if not for the deflection, the keeper probably would have saved it. Altidore, if it was a better keeper probably would have saved it. So, I don't know. I'm still disappointed with both of them overall, despite the goals. And I know I say that a lot, but it's kind of worrying that this is all we've got. Obviously, Bobby Wood is not playing, so we've still got a little bit of hope that maybe he's stepping up his game over in Germany. But for right now, Altidore and Morris just aren't cutting it for me. But thankfully, Clint Dempsey still is. And coming off the bench in the second half, a little bit strange to see him come on for Acosta, just because, I realize that Acosta is more defensive and you want to bring on an attacking player for a defensive player. But at the time, I thought Acosta was looking really strong in the midfield. He was really just throwing himself about and winning the ball back most of the time. He's doing really well to sort of shut down a possibility of a counterattack. So taking him off just seemed like, okay, so now we're losing that in the midfield, and Dempsey's not going to go back there. Morris and Altidore aren't. So what's going to happen now? Well, then we dropped Nagby back there, and we lost the next 4 or 5 balls in the air because of that. I mean, you're going from Acosta, who's probably close to 6 feet tall, to Nagby, who's maybe 5'5". It's just so much difference in height. I didn't understand that move, but it did get Dempsey on the field, did get more attacking power up front, and once again, he started just creating something out of nothing. That header that the keeper had to get down low and make the save, it starts putting pressure on their back line. Now they're all over the place. They're having to mark Dempsey, who's making good runs, opening up space for other players. Once again, just like I said in my last review, I was disappointed to see he was one of the players coming in because I thought to myself, we need to be looking for the next Clint Dempsey to come in. We need to look for somebody who's going to step in and take his spot. But as long as he can do it, we still got to rely on him. He's still good enough to pull it off. He's still good enough to be just in the right mind to pop up in the right spot in the right place. Hell, let him have it. Let him do it. As long as he can continue to win us games, I'm happy with it. So, next sub to come on was Zardes for Areola. Glad to see Areola come off, but Zardes came on and didn't really do much with it. I would have actually preferred to see Pontius come out. I know he's not really a proven factor in the team, but the thing is, we had so many crosses coming in far post. Areola had to go up for 3 or 4 headers in the second half alone, and he's not tall enough to do it. Well, one of the things I noticed about Pontius in the Nicaragua game, he actually does win the ball in the air very well. That's one of the few things that I noticed about him. And so I wish we could have brought him in just to see if maybe that would have helped a little bit more. But for what it's worth, Zardes was involved in the second goal to win it, so he came on with a bit of energy. He looks like he still hasn't got the technical side of his game down. It looks like he's still not smart enough to know, okay, I beat this guy, now what am I going to do with it? Because he's coming right behind me. I don't have the speed to probably beat him in a run, so maybe I should lay it off, or maybe I should cut him as he's about to get the ball. But he doesn't really think like that. It's like he beats the guy, and he just thinks, oh, I got to run, and then tries to take it off with speed, and the guy's got so much more speed than him, and then closes him down, and most of the time he can get kind of a half cross, a deflected cross in. So I don't know. I want to see more from him. Hopefully, he can continue to get back to what we saw before the injury. You know, the bit of the flair and the speed that we saw. But right now, he's just got the speed, and that's not enough to win you tournaments. Although it kind of was tonight, I guess. But it's not enough to win us bigger tournaments against better sides. And then the last one to come on was McCarty. Came on for, I think, Nagby, which pushed. It was like Morrison. Nagby was in the middle at the time, my bad. So Nagby came off and McCarty went into midfield. I still don't understand this change. I still don't understand why this is called shutting down the midfield, according to the announcers, because he's not going to shut down the midfield. Panama ran all over him. When they brought him in against Costa Rica last game, he got passed around so easily. Tonight, Jamaica, first few seconds he's in, he's getting beat with speed. Like the guy just poked it past him and ran, and he's just like, oh no, I gotta catch him now. He's not catching up to him. So I don't know what Arena sees in McCarty. I don't know what everybody else sees in McCarty, because what I see is just such a average player, and to call him the player that's going to shut down your midfield, just shut it down defensively, I just don't see it. He's too small. He's not quick enough. He's not big enough. He's not anything enough to shut down your midfield. He's just a player that's going to come in, maybe work hard, maybe win the ball back a few times, intercept it a couple times, but he's not going to shut anything down by any means. But with all that said, you know, even with the negatives, we still did win, and that's a big positive. You know, in my opinion, it's not enough for me to say that Bruce Arena is a great manager. It's not enough for me to say that some of the players that scored are good enough. I don't know. It's still a rough game to watch. It's still kind of boring. Jamaica didn't help by kind of playing more boring. But we got the win. So you got to take the positives from it. You got to look at the positives of it and hopefully build off of those positives. But you also got to look at the mistakes and some of the problems and say, we got to improve that. You know, some of the players out there tonight that had those mistakes, we really need to look at that and say, okay, we need to start looking elsewhere. And that's the final part of this review, is just going to be talking about, I guess, moving forward into the World Cup qualifiers, talk about this tournament overall, what it showed us. In my opinion, a few of the players that impressed me, and hopefully we'll get some time over the next few months with the World Cup qualifiers on the way. I would love to see more of Rowe. He is one player that I don't think any of us really understand why he left. I tried to find an article or anything explaining why Bruce Arena decided to put him off the roster, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything telling me why he wasn't on there anymore. He looked one of our best players from the group stage, especially attacking-wise. He was definitely our best player attacking-wise, because I didn't see anybody else that stepped up. So I hope to see more of him going forward. He seems good enough to start a little bit. He's very clever on the ball. Other players that impressed, obviously Howard, but I don't think his position was in contention. Dwyer, I'd like to see a little bit more of, just because he looked okay in the couple games that he played in the group stage, but I don't know, he still doesn't look the finished product yet. He works pretty hard. He works definitely harder than Morris and Altidore, but the one thing Morris and Altidore have over him is they're very big. They are strong. And so even though they don't work very hard, if you give them the ball, there's a good chance that they can hold it up. There's a good chance that they can play. Dwyer, I didn't really see much of that. I just saw him kind of running around. He did open up some space. He did make some good runs, but he didn't really look strong enough to be in there, especially by himself. So I'd like to see him maybe play alongside somebody like Altidore or Morris, somebody strong, so he can be sort of the quick forward while they're the ones holding up the play. But I would definitely like to see more of him. I'd like to see, obviously, as a Chelsea fan, I know I'm biased, but I would like to see more of Miazga. I think he got one game. He scored the goal that won the group for us. Also kept a clean sheet in that game. There weren't a whole lot of chances for Nicaragua that game. And while I realize it's Nicaragua and even Martinique beat them, you still got to say, but it was a 3-0 win, and they didn't have hardly any chances. And Miazga looked pretty good. And we didn't get to see him play against better opponents. And so I just don't understand that thinking. I don't understand. He was probably one of the more promising young defenders in there, and we saw him one time, and everybody else got at least 2 games. I'm just like, where's the thinking there? We played some really crappy players in some of these games. Morrow got 2 games, Zusi got 4 games, Gonzalez got 5 games, something like that. I just don't understand the thinking there. But I would like to see more of them, hopefully, coming forward. If there's one of the Trinidad and Tobago games, maybe one of the lesser games. I don't even know. Is Trinidad and Tobago still in our group in the Hex? Maybe not. But yeah, I'd like to see more of him, just see what else he can do. See if the quality can contribute in more than a game against Nicaragua. As far as players I do not want to see anymore, definitely don't want to see Zusi and Gonzalez anymore. I talked about them most of this tournament. None of these games did they impress me. There's none of these games where, even when they were making some good challenges, even when they were doing something well, there's still so much else in the game that just tells me they're not good enough. Zusi isn't technically good enough. He's definitely not good enough to be a right back. He's more of a right wing. And Gonzalez is just way too lazy. I'm tired of watching him just stand in the box as the ball's up in the air, and he can go challenge for it because he's got the height to, but he doesn't want to. And that's just, you can't have that at the international level. You can't have a lack of a desire to go get the ball. Also, don't want to see any more of Corona or Agudelo. I think both of them had pretty good time to show what they could do, and both of them showed they can't do it. I was really surprised to see Dwyer and Rowe heading home over Agudelo and Corona, just because both of them looked really poor, and Dwyer and Rowe looked pretty good. So, don't want to see any more of them, and I guess the last one I don't want to see more of, which probably won't get my wish here, but I don't want to see any more of McCarty. I think just watching him play, he's not good enough to be in that position. I think Bradley's a better option there, which is a lot coming from me because I don't even really like Bradley in there that much. But yeah, overall, everybody else just kind of average. Nobody else really stood out. I think the biggest concern going forward is we need to find a left back that can do it. Because Villafania is one we've been looking at. Can he do it? And he showed he can't. He tonight really showed he cannot handle it. He cannot handle the speed. He cannot handle the strength. He can't get up and down the line like Arena wants him to. He's just not good enough to do both sides of the ball. He might be able to do one or the other, but he can't get up and down the line. So right now, best option there, probably still Fabian Johnson. And we got to find somebody else to take that place, though, because Johnson's getting up there in age, and I just don't know if he'll be able to consistently do it from now on. So that's about it for this tournament overall. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Who's your man of this match and who's your man of the tournament? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future USA reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.